Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to another video. I hope that you guys are having the most wonderful weekend. As you guys know, I have been thinking a lot about the flare cycle, how to navigate symptom tracking, identify triggers, figure out your energy windows. And I know that one of the things that we all experience way too frequently is running smack dab into a flare and not knowing what caused it. One day you're completely fine, the next day you are in a full on flare, and some of those dots can be really difficult to connect. And because I have been sick for 10 years and I have a data analysis and research background, I have always spent a ton of my time on researching my symptoms, paying attention to what time of day I'm experiencing those symptoms. And over the years, I have identified a lot of different patterns, and I understand that that can be incredibly complex. And when you are newly sick and trying to navigate this world and figure out what the heck is going on inside your body, it can be so incredibly overwhelming. And so today I just want to break it all the way down and help all of us start to lay the foundation and lay some groundwork in terms of how are our symptoms impacting us, when are they impacting us, and when are the most optimal times of day that I can complete cognitive work, or I can get my physical therapy exercises in, I can spend time outside, when should I be in the kitchen cooking, meal prepping, and things of that nature. And again, been at this for 10 years. I've done a lot of fine tuning. It's a lot of trial and error, but I think it's really important for all of us to have a very good understanding of how our body operates, whether we're chronically ill or not. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start at the top. No one knows what that means. So, because I have ADHD and because it is very difficult to track a million different symptoms and sort of keep up with that, I really just wanted to simplify it. So, today I'm going to show you the simplest version of how I track my symptoms to identify those patterns so I can adjust my behavior. And I think the main thing that, or the main point that really encouraged or motivated me to simplify is that I had so much data, but it was too much, right? It's too much to analyze. And so I just really wanted a simple way to figure out what is impacting me the most so that I can adjust my behavior accordingly. So in one of my previous videos, I showed you guys how I utilize my heart rate variability, my sleep patterns, my respiratory patterns, and my resting heart rate while I sleep. And that is a system that works really well for me. But I think we can even, take one step even further back. I think it's about patterns versus getting too in the weeds with the details. So, for example, I really try to think about, how I feel as I flow throughout my day. So, in the mornings, for the first hour, I'm usually pretty foggy. I usually have a bad headache. The fatigue is really strong. My tachycardia is through the roof. And so I tend to just take things really slow during that time period because I also know that during that first hour, there's no way that I'm going to have a clear understanding of really how I'm actually feeling. It takes me about an hour to get into that place. So I protect the first 2 hours of my day because I know that if I try to plan my day during that first hour, if I think about what I have on my calendar for that day, I'm going to spiral. And you guys have seen many, many videos on my morning spirals. But I figured out that I was just trying to do too much during that first hour when my body is still trying to wake up and figure out what it is that I need. So after that first hour, I'm up, I'm out of bed, I'm getting ready for breakfast, I'm hydrating, I'm getting my electrolytes, taking my medications. Again, very easy tasks so as not to overstimulate my brain. And during that hour, I'm, feeling out my physicality, I'm feeling out my cognitive abilities, am I able to make sentences? Am I able to think clearly? Am I highly emotional? Are little things putting me over the edge? Am I overstimulated? And then once I figure out sort of how I'm feeling, then I plan my day. So you guys know that I use a sort of a stoplight system, a green, yellow, red system. And I used to have orange in there, but it just kind of complicated things. Again, we're trying to simplify. So I just use green, yellow, and red. And you need zero data collection to figure out what your green, red, and yellow zones are. So green for me, and I'm sure this is pretty applicable to you all. It's, one of your best health days when you feel pretty cognitively strong. You don't have a ton of physical pain. Your brain fog is not taking you completely out. I think we all know what a green day feels like. We don't get enough of them, but we know what they feel like. And in those green days, those are the days that I would choose to take on big projects, do deep work, things that take a lot of processing. Those are things that I'm going to do on my green days. And then for a yellow zone day, those are days where I have limited energy. My brain fog's a little bit stronger. I've got some mild to moderate fatigue. I know that I'm not going to be pushing myself that day. I'm going to try to do some lighter tasks. So, emails, any of my administrative tasks for work, things that are not going to be too taxing, and also things that I can do while I'm laying horizontal as well. And then on my red days, I'm in a full on crash or flare, or I'm heading in that direction. And so I'm going to protect my energy as much as possible. I'm probably not going to be working that day. I'm probably not going to be doing any laundry or household chores or cooking or anything like that. I'm going to rely on my freezer and all of those types of things. So I think you can, just knowing who you are and how your body operates, I think you can identify what those green, yellow, red zones look like for you. And then in terms of, figuring out what your energy windows look like, the way that I did this was, not only sort of walking through everything that I just shared with you in terms of, the first hour of the day, the second hour of the day, and then, once I'm through those two pieces, then I know how to operate within my day. So then from there, I have, basically like a 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. cognitive window. It's not perfect every day. Some days I'm like, I can't do anything cognitive during this window. But for the most part, I am able to do higher order cognitive tasks during that time frame. And then I know that my crash window every single day, because of the quotidian nature of your body, I know that my crash window is between 1 and 3 p.m. every day. And so I protect that window with my entire life. I'm always horizontal. I'm either watching TV or I've got my eyes closed, minimizing sensory input, and that is reliably a bad 2 hours for me. My heart rate variability drops really low, the fatigue sets in, I've got my fever during that time period. And so that has been incredibly reliable. And the way that I identified that pattern was I used to have the most important meeting that I had every single week was at 1 p.m. And every single meeting, I was never anxious. Like there was nothing, nothing that would make this meeting intimidating, but every single time that I logged on to that meeting, I would have a big rush in tachycardia. I would feel like I was going to faint. The fatigue would set in, the fever, all of the things. And so it took me a long time to sort of identify that pattern. And I think that's really the point to emphasize here, is that we're looking for patterns. We aren't overcomplicating things. We're just looking for general patterns within our days. I'm sure that you all can answer the question, what time of day do you feel the worst? It's probably going to be the morning or the evening. And so just know that that is your time to protect. And obviously, we don't all have the luxury of manipulating our days in specific ways, but I think that there are strategies that you can implement to help your body acclimate and operate under the conditions that you are expected to, while making modifications that are going to suit your body. And obviously, with dynamic disabilities, you can wake up feeling amazing and 2 hours later feel absolutely horrible, and vice versa. And so I think that this system or this approach really gives us a way to think super generally about how we're feeling in the moment, to be able to adjust those colors. So if I wake up in green, but 2 hours later I have a fainting episode or I spike a fever, I know that I'm going to move it to yellow. And if if I faint or if, something else happens, then I know that I'm kicking into a red. So this has taken a lot of practice. I have been working through and fine tuning this system for myself, pretty intentionally for about the last year. And so, again, I just want to emphasize that this is a lot of information about our bodies, and it's really difficult to put it into different buckets so that you can have a better understanding of who you are and how your body operates. And then, if you want to get really nitty gritty with your symptoms and how those are sort of, unfolding throughout the day, I would, go back to step one, which is making that list of your symptoms and identify, I would probably just start with one symptom just to keep it simple for yourself. So, again, my most debilitating symptom is fatigue. And so, hour by hour or every couple of hours throughout the day, I might just, do a quick brain check in, or I might write it down and say, on a scale of 1 to 5, how bad is my fatigue this hour? And if you do that for just a couple of days, you'll start to see the pattern of, oh, I'm most fatigued between 7 and 9 a.m. every morning. And so I'm going to nourish my body during that time period and have an understanding of when that fatigue sort of dissipates. And you can do that for as many symptoms as you want. But again, to keep it simple, just pick one, figure out what your pattern is over a couple of days, and adjust your behavior accordingly. So, to give you an example of how I move through my day, so as I shared that first hour, I'm pretty unsure of what it is that I'm feeling. I sometimes have a false sense of energy. I'm feeling really positive. And so, this is an important time of day, the most important time of day for me to make sure that I don't overdo it. And so, even if I'm feeling a ton of energy and I want to start a load of laundry and I want to make an elaborate breakfast, I will pick one of those tasks and keep it short and sweet so that I don't use up my entire energy envelope for the day. And I think honestly that has been one of the most life-changing pieces for me, is understanding and being able to identify when I have false energy, because that is the biggest suck of my energy. So then that second hour, I'm starting to have a better understanding of how I'm feeling, and that's when I start to map out my day using the green, yellow, red system. And so if I'm in the green, I will plan more of my deep work sort of items that I need to get done that require a lot of cognitive energy. And so I'm really just kind of planning during that time period, hydrating, fueling myself. And then from 9 to about 12:30 is when I'm kicking into that high cognition mode. I'm working on my projects, I'm filming my videos, I'm editing. And then following that high cognition window is, it's about 12:30 p.m. So I'm going to prepare a snack slash my micro meal and get myself into a horizontal position. I protect my 1 to 3 p.m. crash window like it's nobody's business. There are no demands, no expectations during that time period. So around 3 or 3:30 p.m., once I'm feeling a little bit better, I feel like I've moved through that crash, then I will move to the kitchen and I do a lot of my mise en place dinner prep. So I get all my pots and pans out, I get the silverware and the plates that we're going to use to serve dinner. I start chopping things, and then I get everything back in the fridge ready to go for my second round of dinner prep, which happens after I take a bath. So do the prep. I rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. Again, for me, I have blood pooling issues, and so getting horizontal allows for my heart and my brain to get the right amount of blood. So once I do that, hop in the bath, and then I do another 10 to 15-minute horizontal session before moving back to the kitchen to finish dinner. And then my husband gets home around 5:30. We have dinner, and then I take my night meds. I move to the couch and I rest. And then I head to bed between 7:30 and 8 p.m. My goal is always to be asleep by 8:30 p.m. And then I also sometimes have an extra energy slash cognition window between 3:30 and 5 p.m. It's not the same every single day. Sometimes I feel horrible. Other days I'm like, okay, I could definitely, tackle a couple more emails or, respond to this portal message from the doctor, whatever the case might be. So I just really try to listen to my body, which I think is probably the hardest part. What we have to do every single day, because it's so different. Our bodies are different every day, and our dynamic disabilities are different throughout the day. And so, monitoring your symptoms is a full time job. And so, my goal is to just make it easier for us as much as possible. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that this video was helpful. If you guys have any questions or want me to do a more structured video on this, I can certainly do that. Again, the goal here was to just simplify as much as possible so that you can do some of this mental work in your brain rather than having to keep a crazy tracking mechanism. So let me know if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any things that you want me to elaborate on. And I'm just so grateful that you guys are here. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.